welcome to the Be The Push podcast. My name is Jack Ferguson and I'm here to bring you the best minds in small business and entrepreneurship. I want to provide you with actionable advice and help you take the next step in your business journey. I'm here to literally help you to be the push you need. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to this episode. Finally got my act together and have started a podcast. For those who don't know me, my name's Jack and I'm coming to you from Brisbane, Australia. I'm excited to finally be on this platform and I've been meaning to do it for so long and now it's finally happening. So very exciting times. I have a number of business experts lined up to speak to over the coming weeks and months. Entrepreneurs, small business owners, plenty of high quality people, guys and girls who have heaps to share. But we're going to start off the first episode with one of my good friends and mentors, Nathan Hoad. He's had fantastic business success over the past 10 or so years and happens to be one of the best tech minds I know and certainly the person I go to for all my tech troubles, and I have a lot. We talk about a bunch of stuff in this episode, from coding and who needs to understand it, all the way through to tools for productivity, remote work, and we even chat about the working hard versus working smart debate. His company is NGU Group. You can find them at NGUgroup.com. But without further ado, let's get on with the episode. Let's bring in the man in the hot seat, Nathan Hoad. So let's start with your career. What are you currently working on and involved with at the moment?
Well, I'm currently doing a whole lot of different things, actually, like most good entrepreneurs.
Right. What companies are you involved with at the moment?
Well, everything sort of falls under the NGU group. So we have under
Sure.
that, there's mostly real estate stuff. There's also a law firm that deals, I guess, mostly real estate corporate stuff, finance company, accounting. It's all sort of together in the same kinds of industries, I guess. But my role in all of that is technologically based. So it's all the software to deal with whatever the needs arise, I guess.
Sure, for any of those companies.
Well, yeah, exactly. So like property management stuff or whatever, or any kind of just software, like whether we end up writing it or whether finding a good solution that is already out there and then tailoring whatever needs tailored or building add-ons on top of things, like all that sort of stuff.
So how long have you been running businesses for now, or part of the team that runs businesses?
I think it's going on 6 years now across various different things, maybe 5 years. I don't know.
Sure.
It all blurs together. It's been a long journey.
Can you talk us through some of the mistakes you made in the beginning, and some of the wake-up calls, I suppose, you got?
I think the biggest thing is never really relying on people to do things. So, like, it's good to have people that do things for you, I guess, because obviously everyone's expertise is good. You can't build everything yourself, or you can't do everything yourself. But at the same time, you can't really look at someone's like published history kind of thing and go, oh, they know exactly what they're doing. They're going to be great, because that's severely edited and like biased towards like themselves, making themselves look like they know what they're doing. No one knows what they're doing. Yeah.
So you're talking about, I guess, third parties.
Yeah, exactly.
Mainly,
Yeah. Not so much talking about like team or anything, because obviously your team, you kind of know them a bit better. But like when someone comes in from a third party, like, or like they provide a service or whatever, and it's basically everyone's trying to sell themselves and like marketing stuff. So you got to see through the crap that they're trying to tell you and see, like, you look at their actual results and try to analyze of whether they got them under what they were trying to sell you, or whether they got them because of someone else's work and they just happened to get lucky, kind of thing.
Yeah, and took the credit for it. How do you deal with that?
Well, early on, you just have to get screwed over by it.
Right, but like now, how would you approach it now?
Just being a lot more critical, I guess, and like asking a lot harder questions of people. Because generally, if they do know what they're doing and they have done it and they can understand what they did to get the success that they may or may not have had, they'll have the answers for it.
Yeah, well, even as someone who sells their services to people, I think that clients who do ask those type of questions are the ones you tend to want to work with.
Yeah, because they care.
Yeah,
exactly.
And they know your value. So if you answer the questions well, which you should, I think even the behaviour with they tend to pay on time. Like there's a few behavioural things that go along with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Critical analysis in the beginning.
Yeah.
What type of assumptions do you think you made before you moved into business that you soon
Well, like I was just saying before, that
Yeah.
people knew what they were doing. So you
Sure.
look at like big companies and you're like, oh, well, they've done all these things and they're huge and clearly, yeah, like they know what they're doing. But then you start talking to people to do certain things or are responsible for certain projects or that sell whatever services or whatever. And just the more you listen to them, the more you meet these people, they generally have no idea what they're doing. They're just sort of stumbling along and occasionally like get something right, but a lot of the time they don't get it right.
Mm.
So I think that's the thing, is like you really have to analyze for yourself, like I was saying before, is like you really have to look at everything critically and actually make a good decision instead of just offloading that decision onto someone that you think can do it for you.
And what type of time frame would you be looking at now that you would actually take to make that type of decision? Like, are we talking weeks?
No, I don't think it takes overly long. You just
Okay.
have to ask the right questions early on. Instead of just going instead of sort of being scared to make the mistake yourself. That's why generally people like offloading the decision onto someone else who probably knows what they're doing or what they think is, or who they think is going to help them. You kind of have to make that hard decision yourself and ask the right questions and critically analyze it initially yourself, and then decide whether or not that person is actually good or whether they're just pulling like the wool over your eyes kind of thing just to get involved.
What about before you went into business, do you think, what was your assumptions around the ease or the difficulty that you were going to come up against, and what was the reality you faced with that?
People always say it's hard, and it is hard, but it's harder than anyone ever puts across.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think's hardest about it?
I think the hardest part is just getting, like, you might have made the greatest thing on earth, but unless you can put it in front of people, like to me, because I'm a tech background, I can easily make stuff, but the hard part is just letting people know about the stuff. So I guess in terms of business is like the growth and finding customers is the hard part maybe.
Do you see a massive gap between tech and non-tech people in this day and age? Like, I mean, you're a tech person yourself.
Well, especially even in Australia, obviously, there's a huge gap there because we don't have a whole lot of tech startups that people read about. Like, you read shitloads of them all through, like, Silicon Valley and wherever else. Like, America's full of these things. And then here, it's like, unless you're in mining or property, no one knows what you're talking about. Yeah.
Do you have, like, a way that you guys can, you as a tech person can talk to a non-tech person? I mean, it's something that I've certainly struggled with at times as a non-tech is you sort of think about something and think it must be easy. Let's just whip up this website with this functionality and X, Y, Z.
I don't know. I'm a lot more cynical these days when people talk about that sort of stuff. The second they say, oh, this is just a 5-second thing. I'm like, well, it's a 5-second thing. Just go and do it.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, but like I know like someone, like it's normally a stickler or people, a sticking point is price or time or whatever. Like the value, they see no value in the thing that they're asking for.
Mm-hmm.
When if they, like, why are they asking for it if they see it has no value?
Right.
Which is a question thing. And then, so yeah, it just comes down to like they want the world, but they don't want to pay for it. They don't want the time frame to actually get quality. And they wait till it's a huge problem, and then they get either screwed over because they went to a bargain basement kind of place to get something done for them and then wonder why it doesn't work or whatever. Like, people don't really see the value in it. It's really hard to actually talk to people about that because they haven't experienced it. They have no yardstick to measure what you're telling them. They just think that you're trying to overcharge them.
I mean, yeah, I've seen a lot of that where, you know, people will go elsewhere, try and get it done cheaper.
Get screwed over and then come back and then want you to fix it. Yeah.
You know, and that option takes, you know, so much time and more money actually. So if something costs, you know, if something costs $10,000 and you go, oh no, I'll get it done for $2,000.
Yeah.
And then you can't use anything from that $2,000 project. You then have to go back and pay $10,000, and your total cost is $12,000.
That's the cost of their education.
Yeah.
They just paid $2,000 to get a really valuable lesson.
And a lot of time too, I'm guessing.
Well, yeah, exactly. Education takes time.
Yeah. I just sort of see that as a big disconnect these days is between the...
It still is, and it's going to be for a while. Like, that's why normally my response now is just, I'm not interested in doing things for people like that. But no, I'll point them in the right direction. I'm not going to do it myself though, because there's nothing worse than being super like undervalued. But normally what I tell people is just go and learn how to do it yourself, because even if you go and get someone to do it, unless you understand what they're doing, they are going to take you for a ride. One day, eventually you're going to, like, what you're building and what you want is a tech solution, your business is mostly tech, unless you know something about it, you're going to fail eventually.
Yeah. And is that why you would say that it's so critical to have internal
in-house tech.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. You don't necessarily need to have in-house tech unless, as I said, your business is like mostly a tech solution.
Yep.
If you don't have in-house, you're just doing it wrong, basically. But if it's just a part of what you're offering, then you need at least to have a grasp of what's happening yourself, but you don't necessarily have to have someone in-house doing it all. It just depends as I said, how much of your business is tech-based. If it's mostly tech-based, then you need to have mostly tech people.
Do you think that more people should learn how to code?
Definitely. Everyone should know how to do it.
Everyone should learn how to code?
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
What makes you say that?
Because everything can benefit from better software. And who best to make the software than people that already have the domain knowledge?
So, yeah. But, I mean, I would maybe think that my time's better spent on my strengths. Like if I'm to, whatever I'm growing or building, if I'm to, go and learn how to code too, which, I mean, my assumption is that's going to take a while.
It will do. What I more mean is that it should be taught like in primary school,
okay,
like a language. Like it's all good now. Like now, anyone, it's easier than you'd imagine to learn how to do it because we have heaps of resources now, and the internet's a big place to find lots of things.
Yeah. Is there some places you'd suggest people go if they were looking to learn how to code?
There's heaps of places. So there's Code School. I think it's codeschool.com.
Yep.
Put it in the show notes, I guess.
Yep.
There's, I think, Treehouse is another one. Team Treehouse, whatever it's called. Code Academy, I think, is another one.
Rails for Zombies?
Well, Rails for Zombies is Code School.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So it's one of their more well-known courses.
Right.
It's a lot of people, that's how they get them into Code School. They do Rails for Zombies because it's free. A lot of these resources are free or very cheap.
Yep.
They do Rails for Zombies and then they like that and then move on to, there's like, because it's the intro course and there's a like higher level one and then there's more and more. It goes deeper and deeper. And yeah, that's how they get them in. They have courses on everything.
Yeah. Let's change gears a little bit to talk a little bit about productivity. Like, I mean, as my understanding is that you work remotely often.
Yeah.
Well, can you talk us through why you choose to do that?
I think remote work is like the only thing you really sort of miss out on a little bit is the like general human contact, I guess, which some people probably need, but you can get that from a myriad of different things.
Yep.
So like there's a lot of co-working spaces around, so you're still technically remote, you're just not working in like HQ of the office because generally there's a lot of distractions there. And I certainly find that whenever I do go into the office, it's just like people on phones or just like people wandering around or need a tiny little thing and that's enough to ruin your concentration to get it.
And does it take a while for you to get back into that same flow that you've just been interrupted from?
Yeah, like because obviously a lot of coding is like mental mapping of how things fit together and it takes a while to sort of work out or like because you have to almost have the whole puzzle in your head to do things. So you build all that up and then someone distracts you and then the puzzle's gone. You have to kind of build that mental map again. So that's kind of...
how much can that cost you a lot of time?
Depends what it is, but yeah, some stuff. So, although I think there was a study a while ago, I'll have to find it again, but it was something like 20 minutes or something for every distraction. So like 2 seconds of something that could have been put in like an email or an instant message on chat or whatever.
Yeah.
Costs 20 minutes minimum.
I reckon for me it's longer. If I get distracted,
some people are,
I think it's really bad news for me to get distracted. I find that it really...
Yeah, I find it depends what it is. Some stuff can be longer, but then other stuff, I don't know. Yeah, it just depends. But it's heavily distracting being in an office environment like that.
Will you have your phone on airplane mode or off or on silent when you're working?
My phone's always on silent.
Okay.
If I miss something, I'll see it later.
Fair enough.
If something is a major emergency, generally I'm not the only person that can be called. Like, I mean, like if someone's just been rushed to hospital, like a friend or whatever, then there's nothing you can really do in the moment anyway.
Yeah.
So,
and that's what I always say when I often tell people to turn your phone off while you're doing work, or like I'm a big fan of airplane mode because then you can still obviously use it for the time and that type of thing, but you can't. It won't distract you.
Well, even just having do not disturb mode on, because that way it's still, your phone's still collecting notifications. Like if someone sent you a message or an email or whatever, like when you just glance at it, maybe you're in between stuff. Like I do a lot of Pomodoro stuff. Like if you don't know what Pomodoro is, you can probably put that in the show notes as well.
Can you tell us what Pomodoro is?
So Pomodoro is like a time management thing. So you'll have like 25 minutes, I think is the standard, 25 minutes of productive something, then 5-minute break, and then another 25 minutes and 5. So it's like half-hour blocks. And after a while, it doesn't work for everyone, but it works for me and a few people that I know who use it, that eventually your brain just starts time boxing things anyway. So you'll be super productive almost like straight away. Like as soon as you start the Pomodoro, you know you're focused because you know at the end of it, then you can like stuff around or check email or go and make a coffee or something. So like you know you have an end time. So your brain almost like it's what is it, the Parkinson's law? Parkinson's law, where you'll use the time allotted to do whatever you need to do. So like obviously not everything can be fit in 25 minutes, but it's also stopping you from pushing that too far.
Yep.
So a lot of people will start a thing and they won't sort of take a break until it's finished, which is also counterproductive.
How so?
Or it just means that you're training yourself to start doing things in small boxes so you can start allocating stuff in your brain a little bit better and how things are done, and have like, because a lot of like coding stuff, it is good to have breaks. Or a lot of the times, like before doing this, I used to just totally forget to eat or totally forget to like get up and have water. And like these are the things you need to like your body to keep going. After a while, you wait till it's a huge problem before you address the problem. So like you'll stop a thing and go, holy crap, I really need to like have a drink, or I really need to go pee or something. And like you don't realize how much it's actually affecting you until you suddenly like stop doing what you're doing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And how strict are you with that, the time frames?
Pomodoro.
But
you have like a little counter, so it tells you. Yeah, so you
like,
don't have to keep an eye on the clock.
Like an alarm?
Well, it's just like I forget what the URL is. I'll have to look it up. But there's like a little Chrome app thing you can get that does it in your browser.
Oh, okay.
It just pops up a little thing when time's up. Or there's apps you can get for your phone, or it's everywhere. You can get a thing for everything.
And you know, while we're on the topic, it'd be interesting to know what you think about, you know how we hear a lot of messaging in the startup scene about, you know, you have to work 16 hours a day and all this type of thing. Are you convinced?
Like 20-hour grind.
Yeah. Are you convinced that the people that do that, if they are doing it, are actually productive that time, for that whole time?
No, hell no.
No.
I think a lot of it is all like, it's mostly just marketing nonsense.
Yeah.
Like not marketing a thing, but like self kind of, I don't know, boasting a little bit. It's not really boasting, but you know what I mean? Like it's
a badge of honor.
Yeah, kind of. Like it's mostly just based on really nonsense numbers, just so people can like compete, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, like it's almost like they're competing how tired they are, which is stupid.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like obviously because there's work and then there's productivity and then there's a whole bunch of different ways of looking at it. But like I'm never really not working, if that makes sense. So like even when you're doing something else, the back of your brain's still solving whatever problem you have at the moment or whatever you're trying to work out.
Yep.
Even if you're doing something else. So in theory, you're probably working all the time, but you're not like actively doing something all the time.
You're not producing output, you know.
Yeah, like so you're not producing the output. Like it's still working towards an output, but it's not like you're sitting there, because you could be sitting there staring at a computer doing nothing.
Yeah.
Is that productive? But you're working.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, which is absurd. So yeah, I think it's just silly to think like if people are sitting at their desk in an office for like 16 hours a day, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, agreed.
Because it's like that whole mentality of like, it doesn't matter what you're doing as long as you're sitting at a desk.
Yeah.
That's why remote team's better, because then you don't have that like false kind of, as long as you're sitting there, I don't care what you're doing, you're on the clock.
Oh, well, I think that don't Jason Fried and
David Hansen.
Yeah, they talk about the value is that there's nothing else to focus on but the work when you're working remotely.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Because there's nothing else to. It's not about when you turned up or how long you sat there for, or
there's no false metrics. Yeah. It's just, have you done the thing you're supposed to do? Yes or no?
Yeah. So how do you communicate internally then? Like if you do, I mean, these things like Slack have come out, and I can see some value in them, but
so we use Slack.
Yeah.
We use Slack for like the tech team, I guess, talks on Slack. And then non-technical people generally use Basecamp.
Okay.
So it's not really like instant messaging. It's more just commenting on a thing. So like if there's something that needs doing, or I don't know, so like say some designs or something need to be done up or whatever, that'll be put through as like a Basecamp thing, and then people can communicate that way back and forth. So that way everyone can kind of see the discussion that's happened on a thing and people can weigh in or whatever. And then there's that history there. So if someone needs something similar, they can go and see something that was done earlier and like what was discussed. That way you don't have the same, like say someone's asking for something that may or may not, like the designer might go, oh, that's kind of silly, or that's you wouldn't do it like that. That way, it sort of stops future of those things. If it's a public thing within the company, people can go and have a look at and see the discussion of why something wasn't done. Then generally, they won't waste the designer's time trying to ask for the same thing over and over again.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you have like an understanding internally about how often that will be checked? Like, I mean, would people put something through that and expect a response in 2 hours, for example?
Depends what it is. Generally, that doesn't happen. No.
Yeah.
So, but everything like Basecamp and all that has like notifications. So it pops up like on a screen, but then it still has to be allocated. Like if someone's working on something that's more pressing and some urgent thing comes in, well then it kind of, you can just comment back going like, what's the urgency on this anyway? Mm-hmm. And then if they're like, oh no, never mind, then it just gets slotted in to be done whenever. Rarely something is super urgent.
Yeah. But will you have that in place where you can see those notifications popping up?
Yeah, well I have notifications on, but
okay.
Yeah, I'm not a huge user of the Basecamp thing anyway.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, and then for everything else, there's just like a couple of emails here and there. Like we haven't completely stamped out email.
Completely.
Well, there's nothing overly wrong with email as long as you don't abuse the hell out of it. It's like any system, like even Slack, you can abuse Slack, and a lot of people do.
Yeah, well, that's what I've found with it. I feel that
it's mostly just noise.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I think it promotes over communication.
Well, there's a thing I saw the other day where someone's got a Slack bot that whenever a discussion starts getting too complicated in Slack, it automatically puts a little link in to go and discuss it on their actual, like, I think a wiki kind of thing.
Okay.
That way, because Slack doesn't keep history unless you have like a premium account, which a lot of places don't because their teams are so small, it doesn't really matter. But just in case, like if you actually want it to be a referenceable discussion, it puts it out into their little, like a wiki thing, a Confluence or whatever it is, and then they can discuss it there, and that way it gets saved as like a reference page. So that's kind of good for that kind of thing. And there's tools that you can use for that kind of thing. Yeah. Like they made their own, but there's other stuff that does that.
And like, I mean, I've got a concern with it that it encourages people not to solve their own problems that they perhaps should be doing.
It's making it too easy to pester people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's probably a thing. But to me, that's not... You shouldn't blame the tools for how people use them. Right. Because lots of tools... Actually, DHH himself says this. I don't agree with what he was saying it about, but the concept is sound, where you should give people sharp knives. Right. That's what they say. So you give people powerful tools, and you can't blame the tool for someone using it the wrong way.
Okay.
Yeah, so he was talking about some coding principles in Rails, but in general, I think like Slack is the sharp knife there. You can use it for all sorts of things, so you can use it to pester the hell out of people, but then there's a lot of people that aren't using it for that. So I think that's a discussion that happens within the company itself to say like, I don't know, well, even then you could make like, it has an API, you can make tools to then silence people if you want. Yeah, yep. Or you just make other channels or whatever. I don't know. It's up to you to how you use the tools. Yep.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Where do you fit on the whole work hard versus work smart debate? Where do you sit on that spectrum?
Mostly towards the work smart thing, but at the same time, like, well, it depends how you define working hard. But yeah, sometimes there is just stuff that you just have to just grind out to get done. So like a lot of coding stuff's like that. Like some people see like writing tests, like automated testing coding is kind of, some people don't like it. It's like a pain in the ass. But at the same time, later on, you'll wish you did that. Right. So I don't know where that falls on the smart and hard thing, because at first it's like you just have to do it, but later on it becomes smart because you did it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know. I like automating as much as possible, so I think that's more towards the work smart thing. Yeah. Like if I have to do something more than twice, it probably gets automated. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, do you feel, why do I keep coming back to this? But I just feel like there is a lot of messaging around about how hard this is and how much you have to push yourself and how you have to dedicate all this time to it. And I'm really just wondering where... Time to what?
If you're starting your own business, I should have clarified that. Yeah. If you're starting your own business or running your own business, do you... Or like we were talking about before with those 12-hour days or 16-hour days or whatever.
Yeah. The grind.
Yeah, the grind. Do you?
Well, I don't know. I think if you push yourself too much, though, you start making stupid decisions. Like
Yep.
You only have, I think was it Ben Franklin or someone? I need to find that as well. So I swear it was Ben Franklin. Someone like that was saying ages ago, and I think there's studies that have sort of started to suggest that it's a thing, where you only have, I think it's 2 to 4 hours of actual productive concentration a day, or thereabouts. Like, obviously, that's not very scientific, but but that's the thing. Like, so if you're pushing yourself for like 16 hours constantly every single day, how many of those hours do you think you're actually making good decisions and good output as opposed to just output?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's the problem is people like to look at that metric because it's something you can easily measure. You can easily measure how long you were sitting in front of a desk.
Yeah, yeah.
But how do you measure whether it was good what you were doing?
Well, I suppose that's a question. Do you have a way to measure that?
Well, that's like the Jason Fried DHH thing again. It's like when you're remote, like all you're doing is like, did you do the task you were supposed to do? Yes or no? Don't care if you were sitting at your desk or wherever the hell you were doing it.
Yep.
Did you do it? And then it's up to you, I guess, how you measure whether it was good or not, whether it's like peer review. Like coding is a bit easier because there is like everything's fairly transparent. Like there's peer review tools and all sorts of things you can do to check what people have done, whether everyone agrees that it was a good job or not at a code level, line by line kind of thing. But yeah, for other stuff, I don't know. In other industries, how do you know if what they were doing was good? But the main thing is it's like drawing the metric away from hours sitting in a seat to just the work itself.
Yep.
Which I think is still a step in the right direction.
Gotcha. And what drives you? Why do all this? Why go through all this pain over the years to have your own companies and whatnot?
To shape my own future, I guess.
Yeah.
To make the decisions that, I don't know. I'd rather be in the position to make those decisions rather than just be like a peon down the bottom complaining about other people making bad decisions and just watching people ruin the world.
What type of in your outside of work? What sort of are your passions at the moment?
Coding.
Coding, yeah.
We're doing some like film stuff as well, like making little short films.
Yep.
Which is, I guess, the same kind of thing, like lots of little tasks building together to make a thing. Yeah. Although I guess if you step back far enough, everything is that.
Yeah. I mean, you've got a YouTube channel now, don't you?
Yeah.
What's it called?
Little Nebula.
Cool. And you were doing 10-second
10-second cinema, yeah. So it's like 10. You were in one of them.
That's right.
Made
my acting debut.
Yep, they're little 10-second films. It's mainly just to like in the walk towards like doing proper film festivals and stuff, just honing in the craft to like work out how to like get really efficient at like editing and special effects and stuff.
Yeah. Did you find any crossover with learning that type of skill and your professional life?
I think it's the same as anything. Like it's all just scheduling stuff and like planning. So like working, if I do this, then that fits into that and that fits into this, and just like small iterations and changes and things, and getting all your stuff together before you go too far down the wrong path.
Yep.
So it's the same as anything, breaking a big task down into tiny little tasks and then reevaluating and validating each little bit. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and then still not losing sight of like the big picture kind of stuff as well, of where you're actually trying to get to.
Yep. I mean, it's just something that I've noticed. I feel that people who are doing, who are running their own business and really having a crack is they tend to do other things as well. Like they tend to be able to, in your case, you're doing the films and that type of thing. Like it's almost like a type of person who's
I think
willing.
I know what you mean. Like there's a lot of people, and I've worked with people like this in the past, where they do whatever they need to do, like bare minimum.
Yep.
For their job, go home and just watch TV for like 6 hours straight.
Yep.
Or, I don't know, jump on the internet and just stuff around on Facebook for 6 hours straight.
Yep.
And then constantly complain that like nothing is being handed to them kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, like, there's nothing wrong with that, but at the same time, I don't see the point in complaining about people not just giving you things if you're not going to take the steps to get it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find something therapeutic about learning something new. I mean, like this is our first episode of the podcast. I mean, this is new to us, right?
Yeah, so that's true.
I'm not a trained journalist or a presenter or anything, but we're just sort of figuring it out as we go.
Yeah, exactly. But there's something, it's like, I don't know, just discovering new things, like opening up new parts of the brain, I guess. There's like, must be dopamine release or something.
Yeah. I often sort of, I saw this great TEDx talk by a girl, her name's Laura DeQuino, and she basically talks about how these days it's almost about mixing two skill sets rather than being absolutely amazing at one. So, and I'm
complementing skill sets.
Yeah, I'm quite fascinated by that cocktail though, of rather than being this amazing coder, for example, but if you can mix those skills with your film skills in a way that, you know, can't be mixed by someone who just has that singular skill set.
Yeah, I think I'm a big believer in cross-pollination of skills. So, like, the more you learn about all sorts of different things, like for example, it's like Steve Jobs. There's a famous example of him when he was at uni. I don't think he actually enrolled. He just went in and sat in on classes. But he used to love, like, calligraphy and all this sort of stuff. And one of the early big things on the Mac was, like, having nice fonts.
Yep.
And that was a huge thing back in the day. And, like, no one cared about that before. It was just because he just happened to really like calligraphy. He's like, well, we have to sort of bring that in as well.
Yeah.
But, like, you don't know where all these extra side skills come into play. And they're generally the people that change things are the ones who've come in with another perspective from somewhere else and introduced it into a new industry that had previously not really thought that was a related thing.
Yeah. It almost makes me, like, I mean, I've always done the whole all-rounder thing. Like, I've never put all my eggs in one basket, really. I've always done a few things. It almost makes me question whether you should specialise too much in one thing, because
I think you need a specialty, but you can't just sit on that. So you should be really good at one thing, but also kind of good at lots of other stuff. Because like, you still need to have a thing, I guess, unless your thing is just being good at lots of things. Yeah,
I mean, but I just feel like you can do it in a way that if you're mixing things that you can only mix in the way that you can mix them.
That's what I mean. Like, if you have your thing is just that particular collection of things, maybe then that's the thing. Like, your thing is just being good at lots of things.
We're saying thing a lot.
No, but that's exactly, because it's a placeholder for anything. Yeah.
No, it's quite an interesting concept. I mean, I like when I started learning to sing, people would say to me that, you know, you'll never be the best singer in the world, and that could be right, and that will be right, but it's not necessarily the point, because it's not the only part of a performance. Like, there's other things that you can leverage to you know, put together a performance. Like, there's plenty of musicians who aren't, you know, amazing singers, like technically amazing singers per se, but they might be great artists, great performers, great lyricists, great marketers, and just
that's the same before. There's like a lot of stuff where you could have the best thing ever, but if you don't know how to market it, no one knows about it. And the reverse is true. You could have like a mediocre thing, but it's just good enough. But if you can get in front of a lot of people, it's still going to get out there. Like, it's that cocktail you're saying. Like, it's you got to like turn the knobs on a bunch of different dials, kind of thing, to get that result
and work out what to turn each one up to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we might leave it there for today. Thanks for your time with us, Nathan. We really appreciate it. Where can we find you? Can we, like, if we want to talk further?
I'm on Twitter mostly. I'm on lots of things. Yeah, Twitter's just the thing.
Twitter's the best. Yeah. What's your handle?
Just Nathan Hoad.
At Nathan Hoad.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thanks for your time, Nathan.
Yep. Cheers.
So thanks for listening to this episode of the Be The Push podcast. You can find all the show notes at bethepush.com/podcast. I appreciate your company, and I hope to talk to you soon.